Hey, good morning guys. I'm the Tech Prepper. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to talk about a portable, ultra lightweight packet station. I did a video last week on the 2-meter packet station behind me, and I was surprised how well that video was received. I typically don't do videos like this. I prefer to operate in the field and do the point and shoot, but since there is some demand, we're going to go ahead and share with you this current project. I posted some teasers on what this bag is about on Instagram, and I was really surprised of how much of the non-ham radio community jumped on board. I have some ideas why, but the point of today's video is we're going to take a look at the contents of this ultralight, ultra portable packet station. We'll talk about the 5 W's, the who, what, where, how, and why, and walk through kind of the components, the rationalization of why this kit exists for me, and where I plan to take it. But let's get started here and let's take a look at the contents of the bag. This bag was sent to me from George with Pactenna. Thanks a lot, George. And it is just a gear pouch for storing cables and other accessories for amateur radio. But it's just a normal MOLLE bag, and it actually turned out to be the right size for this kit. Starting on the outside, we absolutely need an antenna. Well, I also have a GPS dongle. It's optional. So I actually like the wire antennas. This one is the Comet BNC 24. It's great because it can loop on itself and fits nicely in the bag. There's an extra pouch at the top. I just have it for miscellaneous cables. But really the station itself, the packet station that we're going to talk about, consists of a couple of pieces. So the first is the radio, and then connected to it is a KISS TNC modem, if you will, and then we have a computer, and that is the entire station. So let's talk about the capabilities before we go into the breakdown. So I've been working with packet radio for about 1.5 years, pretty much since I got my tech license, and the primary packet mode that I use is APRS, the Automatic Packet Reporting System. And at the beginning, I essentially used it in just this configuration paired with my phone, and I was able to send text messages through a text messaging gateway over the air without any infrastructure, and I was able to let my wife know when I arrived safely on a summit. I could also do very small email messages to anybody in the world. I can do station-to-station messages, and then what people really like about APRS is the ability to do geolocation and beacon your location, so you can see all the stations in your area. You can even tag other objects. So I've done videos like that in the past. So the point here is that you can do with Packet quite a bit of work with APRS. I also recently have WinLink working over Packet. Previously I was using HF, and that gives me the ability to have a more robust way of sending email over the air, and I showed that demo in the last video. Now the third thing that I'm using this for, and this is brand new to me, is Packet to connect to a bulletin board system. And for those of you probably under the age of 40, don't know what that is. So I was born and grew up pre-internet, and at that time in the early to mid 90s, the way that we were connecting and having social communities was on things called bulletin board systems. And this is very much pre-internet. So I would have my computer, something called a modem, and connected to a landline telephone at home. And I would dial into another person's computer, and they had the exact mirror configuration. They had a modem and a computer, and they would run on their end something called a bulletin board system software, or a BBS software. And what it would allow you to do is leave messages for other people. You could have some very lightweight chat in some cases. You could download and store very small documents. So it really was kind of like the pre-internet area of like social collaboration. It was the social watering hole. And I want to use that 30-year-old tech because it's just RF station-to-station communication for my prepper use case. So I have had a handful of local mutually assistant groups or MAGs reach out to me wanting some comms that were not necessarily voice. So my first recommendation was get yourself licensed, and then I had to figure out what kind of kit would not break the bank to get them involved, and I could start to work with them. And then my plan is to actually write or customize my own BBS with prepper-like material. And what I mean by that is I'm planning on storing frequency lists in the area, SOPs, call sign lookups that are fully offline, and really a bunch of like digital tools that are fully stored and air-gapped on something like a Raspberry Pi computer and connected to via RF. So that's the prepper angle. It's a little complex. So what I've also done is I'm starting on the techprepper.com website. I have a series of Raspberry Pi and packet videos or documents. So you'll have to read, unfortunately. I think everybody knows how to read. But I walk through the installation of the Pi from scratch. Once that build is set up, I talk about how I like to connect to it wirelessly, the software that I install to do packets. So it should be a good guide for anybody, and this whole system is completely documented. All right, so now that you have kind of the context of why I'm doing this, I want to revisit old technology that I believe has value and apply a prepper mindset just in case there's an internet outage. All right, so let's talk about the three pieces. So the first thing I have here is a really inexpensive Baofeng UV5R, and I know that I probably lost about 200 subscribers. This radio is what it is. It's a good entry into the hobby, in my opinion, with very low investment, and it was something extra that I have, so I've used this one for my packet video. It's not the one that I use in the field. I actually prefer something a bit more robust and rugged, like the Yaesu FT60R. So we start out with a small 2-meter 440 radio. We need to have a $10 cable to connect it to our KISS TNC. And this is basically a modem for the most part. And this is by a company called Mobilinkd. And this is the second generation. I don't believe it is supported anymore or sold. I like it because it's half the cost of the new TNC3. The limitation of the TNC2 is that it is Android only in terms of configuration. But it actually pairs nicely with computers after the configuration. So I'm using it in my kit because I have it and it was inexpensive. The TNC3 now also supports iOS for the software. So this is the first part of the kit, is the radio plus the modem, the TNC modem. And in fact, even before I connected the computer to it, how I've been using this for the last year has been simply with my smartphone. And the only issue I have with that is that you're limited to the amateur radio tools that are available in the App Store ecosystem. And in most cases for iOS, I believe it's really just the APRS client. And then on the Android side, there is an APRS client called APRS Droid and a WinLink client that's coming up to do messaging. The app ecosystem is a little bit of an area of development and growth, and I'm transitioning now to a full-fledged computer because it has every piece of packet software I could want. So that's the big change. So over here now we have a battery power bank. It's a 3,000 milliamp battery bank that I was using for charging small 5-volt devices, but it works great with charging a Raspberry Pi. Let's talk a little bit about some of the components that might fail. So as you can see already, there are already 3 batteries. We have a battery in the Mobilinkd TNC, we have the battery on the Baofeng radio, and now we have the battery to power the Raspberry Pi. So from a prepper's perspective, we have to make sure that there isn't any type of decay and batteries will discharge over time. So keep that in mind. You have 3 batteries here to charge, and we could talk about field charging in another video. The other reason why I like this battery bank to power this device is that it actually supplies enough amps and volts to power the 3B, but it also has a small dip switch here that I just flipped to turn on and off the power. Now, if you look at some of the Raspberry Pi kits, they sell a small cable that has like a little toggle switch. That's another piece of cable. It's another failure point, so I really like the simplicity. The other thing to note is that I went with an aftermarket micro USB cable, and the reason for that is also to mitigate failure. I've had a number of failure points with the cheaper USB cables. A lot of them don't supply enough current or amps, and the reason for that is because they use like 32 gauge wire. I forget what gauge wire this uses, I'll put a link below, but I think it's around 24 gauge, so it's much better. It's a little bit more rugged, and I've actually had very good success with it. So we've talked about the power, the cable. Now, some of you might be asking, why do I have this little guy on the end? Well, this is an external Wi-Fi adapter, and I ran into one major problem that is the reason why this video has been delayed. The Raspberry Pi 3B Plus has an onboard Wi-Fi adapter and Bluetooth. That's actually how we connect the Mobilinkd TNC to this, is wirelessly using Bluetooth. The problem is when you have the wireless interface, at least the mode that I was running in, which was acting as an access point, when I paired the Bluetooth device, it would pretty much kill and render useless my Wi-Fi connection to the Pi. And that's how I connect to it in the field remotely. So I was dead in the water. I wasn't about to use the Ethernet in the field. But what I did find was the external Wi-Fi adapter. This is the CanaKit. I'll put a link down below. Works really well and doesn't seem to interfere with the Bluetooth whatsoever. So again, the reason why people may say, hey, that's not really appropriate for prepping. Yes, it's another module, it's another failure point, it's another device that is drawing current, so it's using the battery. But in general, this is the entire kit. I probably think you could do this for just shy of $200 if you look for parts on the secondary market. So we have the radio, the cable for your radio to connect it to the Mobilinkd TNC or KISS modem. We have an antenna, 5-volt battery power for a Raspberry Pi, and then an external wireless adapter. So that's it for the overall components. Let's go ahead and jump in the house, and we'll use a computer to connect to this. In the field, I would either use my phone or my small iPad mini, but it makes it easier for screen recording, and I'll walk you through that process. And what we're going to do is connect to a bulletin board system. Oh, one thing I forgot. So the one thing about packet radio for anybody that wants to do this build, it is largely dependent on your community, and packet radio hasn't really been around. There are areas like Ohio that are really active. California, like in the Bay Area, is active. My area, there's about 3 of us. I'm hoping to change that. So if you get all this gear, get licensed, and don't hear anything, it's a virtue of there not being a packet community. So that's the other reason why I have this kit, is that you could start to experiment with each other. So the antenna, so this is a 5-watt radio, and I can't actually hit a lot of the BBSs in my area using even a better aftermarket antenna. So I actually, for our demo, I'm going to connect it to the antenna, the Yagi that I have sitting outside. It's not a terribly sophisticated setup. It's just a Yagi sitting on top of a painter's pole. But believe it or not, on 5 watts, it's enough for me to hit the West Valley and then use that to get to other stations. It's tremendous. So keep that in mind, that in the field, unless you're in a really good position, have good line of sight, even all of this gear may not be able to get you to another station. In my case, I'm relying on a more sophisticated antenna setup. All right, let's get to the demo. All right, guys, I forgot one thing before we jump into the demo. A couple things in terms of getting the station set up. The first thing we're going to do is supply power to the Pi. Now, when it comes up, I'll be able to connect to the wireless hotspot that essentially is this little USB adapter on the back side. We also need to turn on the Mobilinkd TNC, and you'll notice there that the blue light now is flashing pretty rapidly. It's waiting for the computer to pair. Now, I haven't configured my Pi yet to completely pair with this and run a few commands on startup. I'll show you those as part of the demo. We also need to connect the antenna. I'm going to connect it to my larger antenna that's outside, the Yagi. But we also need to turn on the radio. And you notice I have a little sticker here. When you guys get your Mobilinkd TNC, in the manual, it'll talk about setting the appropriate audio levels. and that's so that you can decode the packets. Now, I put a little line there, and when I hit this point, I know that the radio is at the perfect level, so I don't have to use my Android device to go and make sure that I've got the correct audio levels. I kind of know historically now. Now, the other thing is that this is just a KISS modem. It doesn't have any type of CAT control. We can't control which frequency. So for the BBS that I'm planning on connecting to, it's on 145.710 in my area. So you really can't see it on the screen here, but I have used the VFO to enter in that dial frequency. And that's basically it. And then I'm going to steal the antenna from my packet station and just connect it up, and we are good to go. So yeah, let's go jump in the house and let's go ahead and play with some BBS software. All right, guys, it's a little bit later in the day. I had to get through my work day first, but I've got the laptop out here. We still have our station set up. And the first thing we need to do is make sure that we are connected to the Wi-Fi hotspot on the Pi. And I have it set up as FT60R2, and the write-up on the website will actually walk you through the entire process. So once I'm connected to the Pi, I should get an IP address assigned to me. This Pi is on the 192.168.6 network. So the first thing I want to do is connect to it over Secure Shell. I have an SSH server running on this Pi, and we're going to log in using the Pi user. And I set up, enter your own password, whatever that may be. All right, so the first thing we need to do is, in fact, I had prepared for you guys a small document here. So the first thing we want to do is pair the Mobilinkd TNC via Bluetooth to the Pi, and we need 2 commands to do that. So I'll copy and paste the first one. So we're going to use the RF COM to bind a device to the Bluetooth, and we'll have to specify the MAC address. And once that's connected, the little blue light should slow down on here, indicating that we are paired, and then we can see on our terminal that that's been successful. Now the next thing I need to do is open another terminal window, and we'll go ahead and log in again. If this was a Pi that I've had for a while, I would have installed SSH keys, so I wouldn't have to enter in my password every time. And that's how I typically have it configured for the field radios. So let's take a look at the list of commands that I have. And now we need to use the KISS attach command to associate the device from the previous one to the radio we have configured. And it should be noticed, guys, that I actually have my system configured with the defaults from Jason KM for ACK's Build-A-Pi, and he uses WL2K as the configuration for the radio, since it's primarily used for WinLink on his videos. So now we're bound to the device, so everything is working nicely. I like to add the AX listen command because it allows us to see all of the packets coming in and out with the -A option, and then we can see timestamps with the -T option. All right, so we need one more terminal shell, so let me go ahead and open that up. And we'll actually use this one to run our session for the BBS. All right, and just to out my notes one more time on the screen here, we're going to use the AX call, specify our radio, ours is WL2K, and then the remote BBS we want to connect to. And the alias for ours in the white tanks is WTP BBS. It'll be different in your area. So let's connect to it, and we can actually monitor the packets with the AX listen. If we switch windows, you can see here KT1RUN, that's my call sign, is sending a packet to the white tanks BBS. And this could take a little bit of time. I've noticed the first time I do this on a clean reboot, it takes a bit of time. All right, guys, so we're actually connected. We can see some data going across here. I have the Yaesu listening. And for those of you who have never seen it, what we're looking at the screen is the BBS that's sitting, I don't know, maybe 40 miles southwest of me. And you can see here that there are some messages waiting for anybody and everybody, so there's no security here. Everything is going over the clear. Any message I put here, anybody else in the world that has a similar setup can connect to it. And then they have a handful of commands. B will actually do by and log you out of the session. But let's go ahead and type in help real quick, and we should be able to get some messages. And the second I hit enter, we're going to see some packets flying back and forth. And while that's going, the thing to remember with this technology is that it is very slow. This is going over the airwaves, and we're limited to 1200 baud, roughly 1200 bits per second. So you can see here we've got some of the data back already that's telling us how to use the system, and we're getting it back in chunks. So I'm still waiting for the list category to come back. So keep that in mind. This whole setup not only is somewhat fragile and delicate and subject to radio conditions, but it is also very slow. So I think I'm going to try to figure out what my game plan is so we could do it quickly. There is an option over here with just the list command to list messages that are either from or to my call. And that's the one we're actually going to go ahead and look at. And again, as you can see, very slow. We're getting all of the commands. So everything you see here, these are all the available commands that are supported for my BBS, for my use case. I'm actually going to offer some of this and a few others that are very specific to my needs. So let's go ahead and let's type in L to list messages and then hit enter. And then we should get the chirpy chirp sound. So this used to be cutting edge, guys. Like I said, this is more than 30-year-old technology. But right here, you can actually see I have quite a few messages. At the top here, I had, let's see. Looks like I had sent 2 messages to another ham radio operator. Sorry about that. So it looks like I had sent 2 messages out here in response to one from Whiskey Foxtrot 7 Delta, where he said welcome. And then I had responded twice where I had the subject as acknowledged and another time received. So for me to read a message, you'll see here it says the message number 544. We go back up here, I think read was just R, so I can do R. And then I'm going to take a look at his message, which was 542. And again, the back and forth. And while this is all going, this is another reason why I don't like doing videos like this. I have tremendous respect for all the ham YouTubers that can do this. This is not my jam. And we just lost our session. Well, at any rate, guys, I hope you've kind of enjoyed this little walkthrough. As you can see from the janky configuration that is this unit, the fact that I have to deal with the right antenna station to station, and then for some reason the connection just reset. I'm going to work on this, but I really don't have the energy to try to film all this again. So hopefully there was value in what we did here. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little demo of getting connected to the bulletin board system. Again, that's my goal for these little kits. I want to meet with my MAG, the Mutually Assistance Group, and I want to make sure I get these guys licensed. And then I'm going to start handing out these kits, and we're going to see if we're able to connect to a bulletin board system that I'm in the process of setting up for my area. And I'm going to customize it heavily for the prepper use case. And that's to install offline material that would be useful if there was a full internet outage or cell phone outage. And I find it useful to have some of these air-gapped backups. Everything is moving to the cloud. Personally, I hate the cloud. I have to work with cloud technology every day. And not having data that I own on-premise really concerns me. That's why I'm going back to these older technologies. I think in a lot of ways it's more robust and more bulletproof if the infrastructure has a hiccup, which it does often. All right, guys, I don't know how many more packet videos you want me to do. Let me know. I really tried my best to kind of keep it high level. The Tech Prepper website, the techprepper.com website, will have more of the detailed step-by-step walkthroughs there, and I'll try to do that for the technical subjects. But it's time for me to get in the field. I'm going to show you guys on the next video my first experience working a public service event. It's going to be a multi-day event, so I actually get to use some of the backcountry off-grid comm stuff I do anyways, but for public service. All right, stay tuned, guys. Oh, and if you like the content, subscribe. It really helps me out. Be strong, be safe, and be prepared.